Hi everyone, it's Stephanie here and welcome to today's video. I thought we would do something Christmas themed since today is Christmas Eve, the day the video is going live. So I wanted to kind of get one more Christmas card in here before we end the Christmas season. So I decided to use the new Tweet Friends stamp set. Now this is not a holiday stamp set, but every time I saw these adorable singing birds, I kept thinking of Christmas carolers. So I thought it would be cute to color up some of them and kind of make them look Christmassy by adding a little Santa hat to each of them. So that's what we're going to do in today's card. What I love about these bird images is that you can really go detailed and really take a lot of time to color them and really get some texture into their wings and really make them look realistic. Or you can kind of do what I'm doing here, and I'm just kind of coloring quickly and just adding a lot of color to them. Now, I don't know if you typically see green, purple, pink birds, but in my world you do, and we are going to do that with these birds today. I want them to be really bright and colorful on our finished card. So I'm only going to show the coloring of this green guy here. I'm going to do the other two the exact same way. I'm just going to change up the colors, but I'm just doing some basic Copic coloring with 3 different colors. I started off with my lightest to really saturate the paper, and then I'm using my darkest and my medium color to really blend those out and add a little bit of shading to the design. I used E000 and E00 for their bodies just to give them a little bit of color. I added some pink to their cheeks, especially because this is going to be a winter scene, and I also colored in their little beaks. I colored the other 2 off camera like I mentioned earlier. I used the coordinating dies and die cut all 3 of them, and now we have this little trio of cute birds ready to go onto our Christmas scene. So I'm going to set these aside for right now and we're going to work on our background panel. So like I mentioned, my idea behind this card was to have the birds be Christmas carolers, so I need to create a scene in the background for them to be standing in. So I want it to be outside, so I'm going to create a sky on this white cardstock panel. This panel measures 4 inches by 5¼ inches so that when I add it to an A2 size card, I'll have a little bit of a border kind of around the outside edge. And what I'm doing is I'm just adding some distressings to this. I'm starting off with peacock feathers, which is just a nice aqua color blue, and I'm adding it to the panel, but I'm kind of not putting it in the center area. You can see I'm leaving a little bit of white in the center, and I'm not worrying about the bottom because I'm going to put a little snow hill on there as well. I am coming in with some Mermaid Lagoon, which is a little bit darker, and I'm adding that just to the outside edges. I'm keeping that center area completely white, and that's because I know I plan on putting a street light into the scene, and I kind of want it to look like it's glowing over the birds where they're singing. I'm adding some water to the panel to give it a distressed look. I usually love to do this anytime I'm doing a winter scene, just because I think it kind of makes it look like there is snow in the background. So I did add some of that to the top, and now I'm going to bring in all of the rest of the pieces that we're going to use to assemble the scene. So I have 2 different snow hills that I've cut out. I wasn't sure what shape I wanted to go with, so I cut out 2 so I would have them ready. I have my 3 little birds here that we have colored and die cut. And then I have the little Santa hats that we're going to add to them. So these were stamped out from the Beast Friends stamp set. There's a little Santa hat in that set, and I just stamped it out 3 times and colored it in. And then I used my scissors to cut it out so I wouldn't have a white border around the Santa hat. And then I also cut out the 2 streetlight dies. I wasn't sure if I wanted to have the straight up and down streetlight or the one that kind of hangs over. So I just cut them both out at the same time so I could figure it out once I started to assemble the scene. So now that I have all of the pieces ready to go, we're going to go ahead and start to pull everything together. So I kind of laid out the birds where I wanted them to be on the panel, and then I positioned the snow over top so I kind of had it how I wanted it where the birds were going to be standing. I adhered it down and I just used my scissors to cut off the excess. So now we have a really fun snow hill along the bottom of that panel. And now I'm going to finish off the birds and add the little Santa hats to each of them. So I'm just using some liquid glue to do this since they are pretty small. And I also like to use my tweezers just because it's easier to kind of position them and see what I'm doing instead of using my fingers and kind of getting in the way. Now for this bird here, the little flower that was on the top of her head was kind of too large. It was peeking out from behind the Santa hat. So I did trim it off before I added her hat. And then this guy here, I thought he looked funny with the Santa hat kind of sitting almost on top of his head. So I put that one over towards the right-hand side. And then once I have that done, these birds are all finished and we can add them to our scene. So I have the 2 singing birds kind of in the front, and I have the little purple guy kind of tucked into the back standing in the snow hill. I know that he's not actually singing, but he is so cute, and I just thought he looked so good with these other 2 birds, so I really wanted to include him on the card. And I did add some foam adhesive to the green guy just so he would stand out a little bit and have a little bit of dimension. Now once I had the birds on there, I ended up deciding to go with the street light that just goes up and down. So now that I have that decided, I'm going to use my Copic markers and I'm going to color it in with some gray colors. And I'm just using 2 here. I used a light one to color the entire thing in, and then I just added some darker spots in certain areas just to give it a little bit of dimension. And then I colored in the little inside pieces with yellow just to make it look like they were actually lit up. And then I'm adding everything to the card with that same liquid glue. I'm going to use my tweezers to add in the little center pieces. And then once we have that done, we can go ahead and stamp our sentiment. Now I am going to use my Misty to stamp the sentiment since we have already done all of this work on the card. I don't want to risk that we don't stamp it right the first time. And you can see here when I do stamp it, I ended up having to stamp it twice. I didn't get a really good impression that first time. So I'm really glad in instances like this that we have the Misty to be able to do a double stamp and make sure everything is perfectly on there. And since this is a Christmas caroling scene, I did want the sentiment to be something song related, so I used Fa La La from the handwritten holiday stamp set. And then I'm just adding a few little music notes there that are part of the Tweet Friends stamp set, and I finished it off with some clear gems. I am using a sparkle glitter pen to add a little bit of sparkle to the lights as well as the Santa hats. And now I'm doing some final detail with a white gel pen. I'm adding a few little dots to each of the birds' cheeks, and then I'm also going to add a highlight to each of the Santa hats, and I'm going to add snow detail to the lamppost. And then once I'm done adding all of the little details, our panel is finished and we can add it to our card base. So I am putting it onto a Limelight card base. I love the bright green in behind this colorful scene. And then our card is complete, and we've created this really cute Christmas caroling card, and we've actually used a stamp set that wasn't actually intended for Christmas. So I love being able to use my stamps for multiple occasions. Okay, so I hope that gave you some ideas on ways that you can use non-holiday stamps to create some really fun and colorful Christmas cards. I want to take this opportunity to wish you all a very Merry Christmas from all of us at My Favorite Things. Thank you so much for joining me in today's video, and I will see you in another one soon. Thanks for watching.